Ian is an American who moved to Britain. He lives a pretty normal life there. He is on a good hockey team, but they aren't doing so well today because the referee keeps making choices against Ian's team, which speeds up the game and costs them the game. Ian's friends aren't very nice to him after the game, and he feels betrayed. Jenny, his lover, comes over right away to comfort him, and then the two of them leave the house together. On their way out, Ian sees that the clock on the board is still set to the time of the game. When they get to Jenny's house, Ian says that he's been worried all day about something, and he brings up the clock. Jenny tries to comfort him again, and when they start kissing, her parents come up to the window and tell her to come inside. After that, Ian realizes how scary the neighborhood is, so he drives away quickly. A few minutes later, he has to stop the car because a figure on the ground is blocking the road. Ian waits a few seconds, but nothing happens, so he goes to see what's going on with the person in the rain. As soon as Ian feels it, the figure starts to shake, which scares him. He runs back to his car right away. He tries to call 911, but nothing happens. When he looks up, he sees that the person is no longer on the road. Suddenly, a scary black monster with a claw comes through the window, grabs Ian, and throws him to the ground. Then it drags the boy to the train tracks and holds him there until the train comes and runs over him. When Ian wakes up, he is in an office and looks older than he did before. Ian answers the phone and hears the person on the other end hang up. For a few seconds, he doesn't know where he is, but his boss soon tells him that he needs those spreadsheets, and Ian gets right back to work. At some point, his friend Jenny brings him more paperwork to do, and she tells him that she doesn't want the weekend to come because her family will yell at her for being single and not having kids. Ian works for hours, and when the day is over, he's ready to go home. On his way out, a man runs to meet him at the elevator, and Ian sees how sweaty and nervous he looks. When they get to the first floor, the man runs out, knocking into a bunch of boxes as he does so. When Ian gets outside, he sees that the man from the elevator is sick, and among the people who are helping him, he sees a man who looks like he knows him. Ian thinks for a second that the man touching the sick worker has black lines and that the man's face is blurry, but Ian says it was all in his head and walks away. Ian gets something strong to drink when he gets home and watches the street. He sees strange shadows in the building next door. He is startled when his wife Media comes running up behind him. She quickly brings him to the room so they can make out. After an intense moment together, Media can tell that Ian is thinking about something else, so he tells her that he saw a co-worker die and that the other stranger reminded him of his old hockey ref. Ian used to play hockey? That surprises Media. Ian could have sworn he had already told her, so he goes looking for his yearbook to prove it. But when he finds the team photo, he's disappointed to see that he's not in it. Ian starts to feel bad because he has memories of things that didn't happen, but Media gives him ice cream to make him feel better and help him calm down. Ian can't fall asleep. As he tries to sleep, he hears a voice say, he knows, it's too late, and a shadow runs past the window and up the wall. Ian checks downstairs, but he doesn't find anything. The next day, Ian stays up too late and instead of walking to work, he takes the bus. During the ride, he realizes that his watch has stopped, and two men who look a lot like his old hockey buddies get on the bus. As soon as they see him, the two guys get off, and Ian tries to follow them. However, the guys give him the finger and run away. Ian is running down the street when he runs into Gray. Gray knows Ian's name and tells him they need to go somewhere safe. Ian agrees to follow Gray into an alley after noticing that another guy is looking at him in a weird way. Gray says that Ian's watch has stopped, which means that they are coming. He doesn't say who they are, but he says that they are after Ian and that they are the ones who pushed him into a new world. Gray knows everything about both lives and swears that they are all real. He tells Ian that if he dies again, he will just be pushed into another life, where he will be killed every day. Ian pushes Gray against the wall because he doesn't have enough information. Suddenly, the black thing from the day before comes out of a hole and pulls Gray inside. Ian runs away right away and runs into a man with black holes in his eyes. When Ian blinks, everything goes back to normal. Ian tries a public phone because his cell phone won't work, but all he hears is creepy silence. Then Ian runs away again and gets back to his room, where he tells Media that someone is trying to kill him. He hears a noise and looks downstairs to see a shadow moving toward him. Ian locks the door quickly and steps back, but he runs into Media. At that time, Ian sees a drop of blood on the door, and when he looks down, he sees that Media stabbed him with her claw because she is also one of them. She kisses him and then throws him to the ground, telling him that he shouldn't have remembered before she cut his throat open. At that moment, Ian woke up in a car that almost crashed into a truck if his passenger hadn't told him to slow down. It turns out that Ian is a cab driver in this life, and Jenny is using his service right now. Ian apologizes for being a nuisance, and then they talk. When Jenny tells the story of how his family put pressure on her to get married, Ian feels like he's heard it before. When they get to Jenny's family home, she invites Ian in. He doesn't think it's right, so Jenny at least gets him to wait for a cup of coffee. Ian is waiting when he sees a strange man walk by. Then he starts to see creepy shadows in the windows of his neighbors. Ian jumps when he is touched from behind, only to see that it is Jenny. Ian gets into his car and is scared when he sees that the clock has stopped. After getting the coffee, he gets in his car and goes away. When he gets downtown, Gray is waving at him. Ian stops the car and goes looking for him with a wrench in his hand. He gets angry when he learns he knows Gray but doesn't know where. Gray touches Ian and shows him a few flashes of his past life. He also tells Ian that they are coming, so he must protect himself, Jenny, or she'll hurt herself as well. Ian hears a noise and turns around, giving Gray a chance to get away. At that time, another black monster jumps off a roof and kills Ian by landing on him. This time, Ian wakes up in a job agency, and he has a clear memory of his past lives. Jenny shows up before he can look for signs, and in this life, she's trying to help him get a job. Ian acts like he doesn't care, but Jenny sees that he's nervous, so he tells her he's in danger. Jenny doesn't believe him because she thinks he's been doing something wrong again, but the clock stops at that moment. Behind the door, Ian sees the same mystery guy he's seen in his last 2 lives, but this time he also has a black claw. Ian starts to run away, but when he sees the monster's shadow on the stairs, he decides to take the lift instead. But all of a sudden, the beast comes through the lift ceiling, and Ian has to run away again. He runs into Jenny and tells her she isn't safe. Just then, more men come out from behind the door, and Ian also knows them from his past lives. He goes down the fire stairs right away to get to the parking lot, while the men turn into black shadows and chase him the whole time. Ian makes it to the street, where he gets into a cab just in time to avoid being grabbed by something. A wild animal jumps on top of the car after it has only gone a few blocks before it starts stabbing the roof. Ian quickly jumps out of the cab, but then he is hit by a car that was going by. Ian is bleeding out in the street when Media and the 2 guys come up to him. They kill him again. The next time Ian wakes up, he's in a shabby apartment where he can see for himself that he's a junkie. A neighbor knocks on the door to complain about the loud music, and when Ian opens the door, he finds that Jenny lives downstairs and can also hear the music. Ian tries to talk to her, but when she sees the needle in his arm, she gets so upset that she leaves. Soon after, Jenny opened the door to her apartment and saw Ian trying to get in. Jenny grabs a knife to protect herself because she is scared and thinks Ian is a crazy junkie. Ian tries to get her to remember, but he falls down because the needle wound on his arm is bleeding and making him feel sick. Jenny runs to the door to ask for help, but Ian closes it as soon as he starts talking about his past lives and things he shouldn't know about, like Jenny's family. Jenny has a few flashes of memories when she hears these words, but before she can figure out what's going on, a monster claw starts to break down the door. Ian pushes Jenny away, and he starts to see black lines on his arm. At that time, the beast broke through the door, so Ian grabbed Jenny and they ran out through the window and up the emergency stairs. When they get to the ground, 2 monsters surround Ian. He grabs a piece of glass to protect himself, but Media grabs him from behind and uses the glass against his own hand. Then she pushes Ian against the wall and is about to hurt him, but Jenny strikes first by stabbing Media in the shoulder with her knife. This lets up Media's grip, and now Ian and Jenny can run away. Jenny steals a piece of fabric from a homeless person at the subway stop and uses it to bandage Ian's wound. She also says that she can now remember what they did in their past lives. The train pulls up at that moment, and the 2 get on. They agree to stay together until the end. At the next stop, a security guard also gets on and watches the 2 for a while before getting off at the next stop. There, he meets Media and her men and tells them what he knows. Jenny falls asleep after a few stops, and when Ian turns around, he sees Gray sitting next to him. Gray looks very sick, and Ian finally figures out that Gray is also one of the things. They are called harvesters, and they feed on people's fears. At the next stop, when an old man gets on the train, Gray changes into a beast and scares him, eating off his fear as the man runs away. Gray starts to look healthy again after he feeds, and he says that eating on human fear is like a drug. Some harvesters have started killing for it, which means they have gone from being parasites to becoming hunters. They are after Ian because he hurt them, and they don't want him to remember what happened or their race will be over. When that happened, Gray says that Ian was also a reaper in the past and that he was the strongest one. When they hear a noise, Gray tells them they've been found and then leaves. Jenny is sleeping when Ian wakes her up. They run out of the train, but the two hockey players are in the way. The two people run back to where they came from and accidentally bump into a boy, making him drop his phone. Ian tells him to run, but when he stops to get his phone, the harvesters jump on him and hurt him with their claws. They feed on his fear. Ian and Jenny keep running, but the next train gets away from them. Ian is suddenly thrown against the wall by a reaper. Media walks up and tells Ian that he is weak because he hasn't been eating. Then Media changes her hand into a trap and jumps on the two of them, holding them against the wall as Ian's veins start to turn black again. She makes fun of Ian for caring about a person, then kisses him to take over his thoughts. Jenny throws Ian on the floor and lets him go. Slowly, Ian's face changes into his harvester form. Media tells Ian to feed on Jenny, so he crawls on top of her and starts to choke her. Just as he starts to feel some of her fear, Ian sees Jenny's pain and snaps out of it. He can only do one thing to get away, so he says sorry and pushes Jenny and himself off the platform. This way, a train can hit them and kill them, sending them to another life. This time, when Ian wakes up, he's tied to a bed in a mental ward. Ian is being tortured by a number of devices that are connected to his body. He screams for help, but when Jenny the nurse comes to check on him, she only sees an illusion of a man in a coma. After Jenny leaves, Media comes to him and shows him an old memory. She tells him that Ian killed another reaper, which shouldn't be possible, and she wants to know how. Then, Media's men show up and take Ian to a surgery room, where Media gives him poisonous shots that make him pass out. When he wakes up the next time, Ian is back in the room, and a child patient is sleeping in the bed across from Ian's. Media tells him he's weak and needs to eat, but Ian won't hurt a child, so the other two harvesters show the child what they really look like to scare him and feed on his fear. Doctors and nurses come to check on the child when he screams, but they can't see what's wrong. Ian blacks out again, and when he wakes up later, Jenny is there to calm him. Ian has a lot of memories that come back to him after she goes. These memories are a mix of his old lives and the torture Media has put him through while he sleeps. This time, when he wakes up, Media is kissing him before she goes away. The next one to show up is Gray, who is thin and wrinkled and says Ian turned human when he fell in love with Jenny. He killed another reaper because he loved the girl, and he needs to stay alive to protect her because she makes him a better person. Gray used to love a human woman, and she gave him a new life, but the harvesters found her and killed her. Gray offers himself because he doesn't have much time left and Ian doesn't want to eat people. Ian takes him up on his offer and feeds on Gray, which makes all of Gray's scars start to heal right away. When Media's men go back to check on Ian later, they find the room empty and the broken objects. One of the harvesters is checking out the scene when a monster behind the curtain suddenly stabs him, killing him right away. Then it turns out that this is Ian with all of his powers out, and when the other guy tries to run away, Ian jumps on him and kills him too. Jenny keeps working around the hospital, but she doesn't notice the ghosts that follow her everywhere she goes. Soon, Ian starts to follow her, and if a harvester tries to hurt Jenny, Ian kills it first. Before he follows Jenny to the morgue, he kills one in the storage room and another in the hallways. There, some harvesters come out of cover and try to attack her, but Ian comes along and tells her to run. Then Ian kills all of his enemies by using the power of love to kill them quickly and easily with just a few hits. Then Ian goes to find Jenny, only to find that Media has already taken her. When Ian tries to attack her, Media pushes Jenny away and hits Ian instead. This turns him back into a human, and she continues to hit him in quick, painful jumps from one world to the next. After doing all of Ian's jobs and getting on the train, they go back to the hospital, where Media grabs Jenny again and uses her as a shield. Ian sees that there is only one way to stop Media for good, so he stabs Jenny with his own claw. The claw goes all the way through Jenny and hits Media as well. As Media falls apart, Ian thinks about what Gray said about how falling in love gave him a new life. Having learned this, Ian says Jenny that he loves her, and he uses the power of his love to make her feel better. After some time, the couple is back to their old lives, and Ian can now win his hockey game without harvesting officials getting in the way. Jenny comes to applaud him after the game. Ian thanks her for making him human, but Jenny doesn't know what he means because she doesn't remember what happened. Ian sees the mysterious man at that moment and follows him into an empty hallway, where the man shows himself to be a harvester. Ian calls up his claw right away, ready to fight it. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more movie recaps. See you in the next video.